computer. Awesome. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Tonight we got a guest. Her name is Jackie, and she has been working with me for about 5 months now. She's 25 pounds down. So we have a list of questions that kind of pre-frame everything about the journey that she's gone through. The reason that I wanted to invite Jackie on tonight, and actually I think I asked you a couple of weeks ago, then I thought about it even like a month ago, and I thought it'd be fun. But the reason that I was so excited for Jackie was because every time we have a check-in, she had like one time in the past 3 months where she's just like, hey, I'm struggling. Other than that, it's been like, you're in control. I have this event, this event, this event. This is the plan that I'm going to execute. These are my, my focal points, and I'm going to hit it. And it just went from the first few months of the, or like, I don't even know, months or weeks. My timeline's all jacked up, but it went from almost like talking off a ledge, because the big thing that I'm pushing is kind of culture, counter counter diet culture. And what I mean is it's not necessarily move more and eat less. So it's doing a reverse diet. It's really revamping your hormones, giving your body a chance to recover. So Jackie, even before, I didn't even ask this question, or maybe I did, but I'll just go through the questions. Let's keep it really simple. I throw out like anything in the wrench. Okay. So Jackie, first question, how long have you been at it, and how much weight are you down?
All right. So like you said, I've been with you for 5 months and I've lost 25 pounds. I did about 3 months of my reverse diet, three-ish. And then I've been in a deficit for about 7 weeks now. And then I lost 15 pounds during the reverse diet, and then just another 10-ish now, since I've gone into the deficit.
Perfect. So actually you're averaging over a pound a week,
Yeah, about a pound and a half a week.
which is pretty cool. It seems to be sustainable too. And then like, I don't know if I asked this question on here, but how do you feel, like, how did you feel during the reverse diet phase first? I think that's one of the hardest things to go through for anyone. And we had some heart to hearts during the time.
Yes. So the crazy thing about the reverse diet is, like, when I started with you and you said, like, it's going to take us a little while to go through this reverse diet, like it might be 3 months before we actually start trying to lose weight. I That was hard for me to hear, because I had felt like I want to start today. Like whenever you start something new, you're like super motivated. And I was like, I want to start today. Um, but the thing that, like, you couldn't have told me and that I didn't know was, like, how amazing I was going to feel during the reverse diet. Like, I felt so good that I didn't even know how bad I had felt, because I had never felt this good ever. And so, like, at the end of the reverse diet, like, if you had told me, hey, we're going to spend 3 months and you're going to eat more and you're going to focus on, just sleep and water and eating protein, I've been like, fine. But if you had told me, like, you're going to feel so good, it's going to be I would have been like, all right, let's do it. Because
Yeah.
the feeling I had at the end of that reverse diet, in even like the last month of the reverse diet, like I felt so good. Like my mood is great, my energy is great. Like I was going for walks and feeling so good. I'd be like, I think I'm gonna run a little bit. Like I just felt so good. I was like, I'm gonna run. Like this feels good.
Very
And
cool.
I am not a runner. I don't like to run, and I don't run like regularly. It's unbelievable what you can
Yeah.
do when you feel like, when you're actually feeding your body and like taking care of it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing that I kind of hear out of that too is, now, wouldn't you be somewhat excited to get back to your maintenance and back to like how you were feeling before, right? So that's why, so she's 6 weeks into the deficit. Typically, I don't like going more than 12 weeks at a time. And then you have what's called a refeed, or back, you just go back to your maintenance calories to kind of give your body the signal so you can continue. Just for you guys, like a free one out there, you should not be in a deficit for 365 days a year. That is very hard on your body, and that's kind of what plummets all that energy and mood and your digestion and sleep and libido and all that stuff. So if you have been dieting forever, stop it. Do a reverse diet today. Jackie kind of just sold it on why it's not the necessarily the weight loss, but how good you could possibly feel. So when we're done with this deficit, we're going to reverse back up to feeling that way. And then that's the motivation too, to continue to eat and live that way and like make this into a lifestyle, because you know, and I always joked with her. She's like, she would get on these check-in calls. I'm like, so how do you feel? And she's like, oh, I feel really good. Like my energy's going up or whatever. And I was like, what if this was 75% or 60% and you've just been living at 40% your whole life? We don't know. We don't know how good we could feel. And then there was this one moment she's like, well, how high am I going to go on this reverse diet? And where did you start? Do you remember, Jackie?
Like calories where I started?
Yeah.
Maybe around 1400 on a high day.
Yeah, I remember when we did 1400 and she's like, I feel so full. Like I don't want to eat this much food. She was a little nervous about that. And then do you remember what we ended on?
Yeah, like 2250.
Yeah, 2250. And we got to like, I think it was 1950 or 2000 calories. And she's like, all right, what do we got to do? Like, how high are we going to go? Are we just going to do this like a week at a time and slowly go? And then we talked about the reverse or a restore diet. I don't know if you guys are familiar, if I've talked about that before, but I'm like, I think you're going to get all the way to 2300. That's what I thought, just based off of her diet history, our conversations, everything of how good she was feeling, where her weight was trending. So we just jumped right to 2300 calories. And when you do that, you're pretty much just leaping into your maintenance. And we found out that that was a slight caloric surplus because we did it for 2 weeks and the weight went up like a half a pound. Right. So because we knew that though, now we know her maintenance calories right around 20 or 22,500. And then from there, we can actually knowingly go into a deficit, which I always
Yeah.
like. I don't like guessing. Like, it's not my favorite thing. Like, I hope this is going to work. I like knowing those things. So if you give me consistency and you put in the work to find out how you can hit these goals, have your steps, do your water, focus on sleep, do all those other things too. That's how I was like, oh, cool. This is your lifestyle. This is motivation to live here because you feel so good. Now we know what maintenance is like. Let's just go into this deficit for 8 to 12 weeks, lose, I don't know, 8 to 24 pounds. And then we'll reverse back out of it, give you a refeed day, a maintenance week. People call it cheat meals. I don't like the term cheat meal, but we'll talk about that at a later date.
But the crazy thing is how good I feel even in the deficit, like because you're still focusing on eating a like nutrient dense diet and a protein rich diet, and
Yeah.
you're still focusing on the water and the sleep and the recovery. Like I still feel amazing even in a deficit, which was crazy to me that I had like a little hiccup a couple weeks ago where I was like I felt like it wasn't working because I didn't feel bad. Like I felt like if I was in a deficit, I should feel bad. I should be hungry or I should be tired. And I didn't. So I was like, something must not be working. But
So
it
what calories
was
are
like
you at right now in your deficit?
1850.
She's at 1,850 calories and losing a pound and a half a week. I think that's so cool because I know you could do this for like the long haul and we're not over stressing your body because you feel good. And then the hiccup that we talked about, I got to dig into this because this is, like I don't find pleasure or joy in being right, but I do love it when someone has the realization themselves. And this is exactly what happened. So Jackie, you work at Madison and you had a little bit change in your schedule and you were eating 1,850 calories. And then for some reason, you were leaving a lot of calories at the end of the day left and then just not eating them. Right. Why did you do that? And then what did we do afterwards?
Well, I started having to go to Madison 4 days a week. So I was spending like 12, 14 hours a week in the car. And I knew that that meant my activity was lower. And so I was trying to account for the fact I wasn't being as active as I had been for the previous, 4 months. And so, yeah, like I stopped eating as much. I stopped eating my 1,850 calories and the scale kind of stopped moving, which made me feel even worse about it. And then I went back to maintenance, or I went back to my 1,850 and the scale started moving again.
So isn't that just I just think that's so interesting because like in the past, hey, I'm not losing weight. What should I do? Oh, you should cut your calories more. Well, she did it subconsciously or she did it consciously, but I don't know, it wasn't like crazy either. I think you went to like, it was between 1,450 and 1,600 or something like that on these days. So she went down to a deficit, which is even more food than when she first started, but it was a little bit too dramatic of a deficit, and she didn't feel good. Like, I don't know if that had to do with the lack of calories, or the not motivation from seeing the scale move or anything like that, but it's accumulation of everything. And so instead of doing that, I was like, hey, like, this is what you think you should do. That's what like tradition tells you. That's what diet culture tells you to do. Let's do the opposite. Let's go back to the 1850. And then she lost more weight.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, I spent the first 4 months with you, or 5 months with you, teaching my body that I was going to feed it reliably, that I was going to sleep enough and drink enough water, um, and that when my stress ramps up, like, I'm still just going to do those things consistently. And then at the first sign of like a lot of stress, I stopped being consistent, and my body was like, what are you doing? Like, you
Yeah.
just spent all this time being consistent, and now you're inconsistent. Like,
Yeah. So here's a question for the people on the live. If you guys have ever been in just a stressful situation or anything, and then just cut your calories or stopped eating as much, and you're trying to lose weight, who's done that before? Like, when you get really frustrated and you're like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna go like lower and lower and lower to see what happens. Hit like if you've done that before. Hit the thumbs up button, just so I can get an idea if anyone's kind of relate to that, because I've done that, and it's like one of my biggest, I don't even know, not pet peeves. It's just like, this is what the world tells you to do. And it's like the opposite of what you should. When you have more stress, you actually need more calories to help recover. Yeah. So there's a couple likes coming through from there. I can't see who, but there's some likes. So I got 3 of them, 4 or 5. Perfect. So you're not alone on this. And I think that's another really important thing too, is like, you're never alone during this journey. And then the second that you ever needed anything, I hope I was there, but at the same time, like, we had this kind of open line of communication pretty regularly, but like had these weekly check-in calls and these check-in forums and these like probably annoying little messages like, hey, because I'm so curious, like, what's going on over there. But you got through it. So let's just, the one question I wanted to ask too, and I got ahead of myself, but Jackie actually won this at an auction. What was that auction for? I can't remember.
it was for the Grafton Education Foundation.
Perfect. And you won just 3 months with me.
Mhm.
And what made you decide to put your name on that auction list?
So I had been trying to, I guess, lose the weight since I had my kids, and they're 7 and 9 now. So it's been a long time, and I have done everything. I've done the like restrictive diets. I've done the like kill yourself in the gym thing. And every time it wasn't sustainable. And so most recently I had started working out again, um, at home, and I was back in another cycle of like, all right, I'm really going to focus on my health and what I'm eating. And I'd been doing that for like 4 or 5 months. And this time the scale didn't move at all. And I was like, just kind of at the lowest point of like, something's got to give. Like, I can't just keep doing the same things and then never having that level of success. And so when I saw, like, I was just kind of scrolling through what they were giving, or what was in the auction, and I saw the description of your program, I was like, yeah, like, this is it. Like, I had when I had joined gyms in the past, or talked to friends who own gyms or whatever, I was always asking, like, how do I feed myself? Like, everything was like, eat this or don't eat that, or do Whole30 or don't, or whatever. I was like, I don't know how to eat for my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read like what your program offered, it was just like this light bulb of like, it's it sounded too good to be true, to be honest. Like, it sounded like this like silver bullet.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm it's been amazing. I'm like, it's the best decision literally that I've ever made.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Well, I'm gonna go cry really quick. No, it's super sad to me. I'm excited for you, and thank you for the compliments and the kind words. The saddest thing is though, like, when I was training people at a gym, if they never had their diet like in check, And in theory, like everybody has been under eating now, probably that almost everybody that I've ever worked with, I think was coming from this place of deprivation and not doing a reverse diet. I mean, a reverse diet technically came from the bodybuilding community. So it's not like the most known thing for your general population or anyone just like trying to lose weight or just, improve their health or anything like that until recently. And I think how diet culture works is that people are going to be doing what you're doing today in like 20 years, because that's just how slow everybody is to the game, which is like the saddest thing to me, because like that's just 20 more years of obesity epidemic like getting worse, and blood pressure and all the things that come with like heart disease. So like me personally, my family has blood sugar issues, we have heart disease issues, and it just scares the shit out of me. But like, and my grandma was actually, I think she got a degree in like nutrition and dietetics from Marquette back in 1954. I don't want to, I hope she's not watching. She's gonna be so mad if I don't like call her too old. But even like then, like it was getting like beans and lentils and eating more like healthy nutrient dense foods. This whole deficit thing didn't really come until like the 90s, when everyone's like, you need to be in a deficit to lose weight. Well, everyone just assumes that, hey, like I enter my fitness pal, I put my numbers in, it spits out 1,300 calories to be my goal weight in 8 weeks. Cool, I'm going to eat that. And it works until it doesn't. Like you've probably had some success where you lost like 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, gained it back. And then your body remembers that. My fitness pal doesn't. And so when you go back into that, there's only one way, and it is like to come back and find your true maintenance and get that number as high as possible. And if it scares you to like eat 2,300 calories, there's ways where you can make those calories work too. It doesn't have to be super, oh my gosh, that's so much food. Eat things like I've recommended a million times, like shakes and trail mix, which is a really good advice for someone who's coming from a place of under eating, who gets full really easy. It's terrible advice if you're coming from a place of overeating or binging off it. Okay. So, well, thanks. I'm super glad that you put your name on that list. Let's go to the
And
next.
if I remember, like I saw that and I like signed up for it, but I messaged you before I even won it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, even if I don't win this sounds like something that I want to do. Like it felt like I needed to do it.
All right. So that goes it perfectly into the next question. Is this program what you expected when you signed up?
No. I mean, it's been so much more than that, I basically thought that like it was going to be like, okay, here's a program for you, like eat this many calories, do this workout, and you'll have success. Like I thought you were just going to tell me what to do every day and I would do it. But that's not true. Like the most important thing is that you met me where I was, first of all. So like where my mindset was, like, you had me track everything for a few days so that you could see what I was doing. And then you could really like meet me where I was and then teach me how to feed my body, like not just anybody else's, not some like cookie cutter kind of thing. It was for me and how we were going to get my body to respond. And and then and you were like, we're going to track it all the way through. So every week it was like how, and you've said this all like many times, like we're going to check all your biofeedback and all that. And it's so true. It was like, okay, after this week, how did that feel? How is your mood? How's your energy? How's all this doing? Okay, let's try this. And then the next week checking in again. How is this going? And so like over the course of like as the weeks went by, I just slowly picked up more and more tools, more and more ways to do it myself, and then continually being able to have that like reflective check-in to be like, okay, this is what I did last week and this is how I felt about it. Okay, now I'll move forward from that. So like every week was a chance to learn and like grow from it and then do that reflection on how it went.
Awesome. And before you started the program, how are you feeling then?
Bad. A real low point. You ask a lot in the beginning, like, do you feel like you deserve to be happy? Right. And I had a lot of trouble saying yes. I could say like, I don't feel like I deserve to be unhappy. But I had pretty much accepted that I would never be happy, that like I just wouldn't be happy in my body.
Mhm.
And
And
so that's like a really depressing place to be.
yeah.
Is to like, can I learn to live with this?
Yeah, and then I always love it. There's always at some point, maybe not always, but it's happened several times where I'll ask, so like people will say like, "Hey, what's your initial goal?" Like, "Oh, I just want to start with like 10." Like, I'd love to lose 10 pounds. Like, I think I'd be good then. And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then, well, what does that put you at? And they're like, "Oh," and then they say a number, and then like, "Well, actually, maybe if I got done to like 20 or 25." And I'm like, "Well, what like we could play this game. I want to be on this phone for a while. Just tell me what you want to weigh. Like, how low do you want to go? Like, where do you want to see yourself? Oh, I actually want to get to my college weight because that's when I had my most confidence and I felt the best. Awesome. That's great. Or, hey, this number on the BMI scale says like a healthy weight for my weight would be this. Do you think we could even get there? And I always say, like, I think we can do anything. And that would not have been the case 2 years ago if you were working with me. I'd be like, well, let's see when we get there, kind of thing. Um, but now we get to this point because like you're doing all the work. You put in the work. Like you said, I gave you some guidance. I met you where you're at, but you did the work. If I would have given you the meal plan, it wouldn't have worked. Like I almost, I hate to say it. I had the conversation today with somebody about like, I want it to be challenging somewhat because you got to figure this out for you. Because if you do the work and you find out what works for your body through this guidance and everything else, it's going to be so much more worth it. If I just give you a plan and then you need that plan forever, well, eventually that plan is not going to work. But I know your lifestyle habits and your like the routines and things that you do every day, and like how you look at meals and how you look at snacks and how you look at birthday parties and whatnot, and how you prepare for those. Like that work that you did was pretty much you went to a barbecue or a cookout and asked you, what's your plan? And we kind of came up with one and then like, try this, just prioritize the protein first, like, have what you want, be like mindful of it, just try not to overdo the simple like things, and then let's talk about it next week. And then we did that, and like what happened, like, oh yeah, it was really good, like I enjoyed it. And like my favorite thing, like the first couple weeks of the deficit, I'm like, oh man, gosh, I hope she doesn't go the opposite direction, because she like was having crumble cookie and cupcakes for like a birthday party. But we talked about it, and I think I struggle with some people too, because they almost feel like ashamed to eat those foods. And I'm like, well, no, it's food. Like that's part of life. Like imagine being Italian and going to dinner and be like, no pasta for me. Like that family, I'm sure would like sacrifice. Like, nah, that's a bad word. It would not crucify. They'd be upset, right? And that's just not what life is like. Okay, so I think that's why I'm also like super excited, because one, we could definitely get you to be wherever you want to be with confidence, because it's working. And then there's going to be some struggles, like this isn't the easiest route in the world. Stress will pop up, the weight loss will slow down, but let's talk about it, and then let's do things proactively to make sure that it doesn't stall for a long time. um all right, moving on. What was that aha moment that health and fitness may not look the way that you thought it did previously?
Um, so I mean, I've had a couple of like big aha moments throughout the process. So this isn't really like how about health and fitness not looking the way that I thought it did. So like but it kind of led to that. So like the first part was that I had carried so much guilt with me that like the reason I hadn't had success was because I didn't want it bad enough. I wasn't willing to work hard enough for long enough. I wasn't motivated enough. I didn't have enough discipline to like do it. Um, and so that was like the most important lesson through the reverse diet for me, was that that wasn't true. Like I just wasn't using the tools that I had effectively. And it was mind blowing to me because I am a teacher, and when my students fail an exam and they say like, well, I just need to study harder, I'm like, well, I'm sure you're studying hard. You're just probably not using the materials the most effective way that you could to prepare. And so the fact that like it didn't resonate with me for a long time, that like the exact same thing, it like if I failed at losing weight, it wasn't that I wasn't trying hard at it. I just wasn't using the tools that I had at my disposal like the right way.
Mhm.
And so that was like the biggest aha moment for me. But then it kind of led to um like some better like kind of the realization that like the thing that I was afraid of, the thing that I was most afraid of was being like really overweight or really unhealthy. Like that thing had already happened. I was already there. So like why was I holding back on the reverse diet? Why wasn't I just like kind of jumping 2 feet in to be like, the worst has already happened. Like, let's try to fix it now. And that was really the point where I said, okay, how high are we trying to go? And I was able to just get into that to that place of eating like 2,300 calories every day and make that big jump, because it was like, why am I afraid to add an extra 50 calories or an extra 100 calories in a week? Like, what am I afraid is going to happen? I'm going to gain a pound. I'm going to gain 2 pounds. Well, like over the last 8 years, I gained 50 pounds, like when I was, when I had my 2 kids, I gained 60 pounds, like that had happened a long time ago. And now I was going to be upset over the possibility of gaining 5 pounds in 3 months doing this reverse diet, but like was going to feel good at the end of it. Like, it didn't make any sense that I was so stuck on like holding back and being afraid of that.
Mhm.
That I was able to, once I finally let that go, I was able to just jump in and do whatever I needed to do to, get like to embrace how good I was feeling and embrace the amount of food I was eating, and to just change that whole mindset about it.
Yeah, you had one comment early on when you said that you were eating something and you were thinking that somebody was judging you for how much you were eating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and when you said something like that, I'm like, well, I can't. I'm sure I said some asshole comment, be like, well, fuck them or something
Yeah.
stupid. But it's like to the things like they don't have your best interest in mind. Like no one truly has your best interest in mind, except for like,
Yeah.
and when you start doing, like you said, you had that shift, it was like game over. If this was a race, I'm betting on Jackie like to get there the most efficiently, because it's the mindset. It has nothing to
Hmm.
do with the macros. It has nothing to do with the nutrition and the tips and tricks and the hacks to, be more efficient and hit your calories and be disciplined. It's literally, I had an aha moment. I was this pain of change is greater than this pain of not changing or the pain of staying the same.
Hmm.
And that fear. And like when that happened, it was like you said, a light bulb went off and
Oh, yeah.
you were able to jump right in. So the
Well, and
last,
then like I had the hardest part of being like at a family dinner or something, like, and I needed to eat a lot of protein because I was trying to, I mean, that was one of the things I was eating, like twice as much protein as I'd ever eaten in my life. And so when you go to like a family dinner, like they just don't make that much protein, right? Like
I
that's
do.
the
My
thing,
family
right?
did. I'm barbecuing like chicken for everybody.
Well, right. But so like when I'd be like, well, can I, like, you don't want to be the like token fat person eating more than a fat person who's trying to be a skinny person should eat, like if I was trying to lose weight, I felt like I had to be demonstrating how little I was eating, right? Or talking about how much I was working out or, whatever. Um, but so I really struggled with being like eating a lot of food in front of other people, because I was afraid they were going to look at me and be like, yeah, it's no wonder that you are overweight. Like, look at how much you eat. That was a big challenge to get over.
Yeah. I mean it, but like that, everything that you just said, it came from somewhere. And it didn't just like pop up randomly in, the culture in the universe. Like there are that it's that thought process, because like people think that like if you're overweight, you must have an eating issue. You must have just be overeating like crazy every day, all day. All you do is binge and I don't think that's the case. I think like you said, like it, because when you first came and eating 1,400 calories was like stuffing, I was like, I bet you got away with a few days where you're eating like 800 calories or less, and
Mhm.
maybe 1,000 calories a day or less consistently on average, and working out super hard. I think I've seen so many people that they do not have an issue working hard. It's not a matter of how hard they can work at something. It's like I said, this mindset shift, because I think that's harder than doing like 20 burpees. Like I don't do
Mhm.
burpees in my program, but um I don't think anyone has the issue of like putting in the work, because it's more mental challenge than anything, mental hurdles that you just got to break through. But
Mhm.
the one thing that I always try to do too is, like you said, meet you where you're at. But two, I want to give you like, sorry, I just heard some like feedback and it threw me off. Pattern interrupt 100%. Um, but I want to meet you where you're at. And then I also want to like, make sure that you're having everything that you need to move forward. Man, I had something better to say. That that really threw me off. I'm sorry, everybody. Um, Anywho, I it would have been gold. Now it's not. But I think that's what coaching is. It's like it's talking through these challenging situations and like, all right, now this is what happened. What was the outcome? Now what are we going to do different next time? Oh, cool. That's your new strategy. Because now I think, Jack, you got like 20 strategies every time you go camping or every time you go to a barbecue or a party or
Mhm.
anything like that. You know exactly what you have to do before, after, and during. And it doesn't look like avoid the world. Like I've seen
No.
diet programs for me that I've gone through, like, cool. I'm just going to give up alcohol. I'm not going to say hi to any friends that drink alcohol. I'm not going to go out on the weekends. I'm just going to eat my meal plan and be miserable after 7 p.m. That worked. Like I lost weight, but then I went back out into the world and I started drinking again. I probably drank more because of that whole restricted lifestyle. So I know for me, it doesn't work. I think that's where more people come from though, is this working out really hard or doing everything. And like, it's not the effort issue. It's this mindset that we got to shift. All right. One more question. What's one piece of advice that you would tell someone that's starting on their health and fitness journey, or if someone is going to get into like a reverse diet, what would be like the key takeaways or things that you want them to know?
So I think I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but the key takeaway for me was like I didn't know how good like physiologically it feels to like take care of your body.
Yeah.
So like how important like that nutrition piece of it is, but like the everything else, the like the sleep, the water, the stress reduction, like I just didn't realize how good physiologically I was going to feel when I focused on like when I put all of those things together. I also didn't realize like what fraction of myself like I had become because I was feeling so bad, and that like how good it was going to feel to um get those pieces, get the like mood and the energy and all that up. Like I actually feel now like I know that like I'm still just starting my journey really. But like I feel like I could, if you said like, okay, Jackie, I think you've hit your basement. I don't think you're gonna lose any more weight. Like, are you okay with that? I would say, yeah. Like, as long as I don't lose this feeling, like as long as I keep eating this way and drinking the water and sleeping, like if I felt this way for the rest of my life, I'd be okay with it because
Yeah.
it's that good. Like I know, like I said, I'm not done losing weight, and that's an added bonus. But like to find this part of myself and like get that part of myself back has been, it's life changing. Like I mean it, like it's unbelievable.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're like going through this and you're getting this much out of it, because I didn't even know you felt this passionate about it. So I'm finding out some new things about you tonight too, which is cool. One of my favorite things that people, and I think Jackie was on this list, she found herself being a little less like short or snappy at husband and kids. Um, that is probably the first thing that people like notice when they start like focusing on these things, is like, man, my husband just likes me a little bit more, or like I'm
Yeah.
not as short with my kids. Um, I think
But
you were
then you
like,
go into the deficit, right? And then for like a couple of days while your body adjusts, you're like, ooh, did I used to be like that all the time? Like, I'm sorry.
you don't know until you know. Lauren wanted to know how long it took you in the reverse diet. I think you answered that as about 3 months. Um, we did a reverse from 1,400 calories all the way up. And the check-ins kind of got to the point like, hey, guess what we're gonna do? And you're like, we're gonna add the calories. And I said, yep. How much? Cool. What is it? And she just took the numbers and ran with them for a week. I'll see you next week. And then we once we got over that mental barrier, she kind of went all in on the process and how good she could possibly feel. We got to 1,900 calories. And like I said, we could spend another 4 weeks getting up to 23. I think it's right around 2,300. and we jumped into that. It was a little too high. We corrected, went to 2,200 calories. She maintained. And then from there, we went down to 1,800. And it's been pretty good. So that's kind of like how that process works. If anybody's confused, like it's not like a cut and dry, hey, this is your number, this is your age, weight, height, your MyFitnessPal says this is your deficit, this is your activity level. It's, you have to learn what works for you. And like I said, MyFitnessPal doesn't know your dietary history. It doesn't know your stress around any of that stuff. So that's kind of like those conversations I think that are so key, because that's like one thing that I'm always listening for. Like, oh my gosh, she just feels like she's in a better place. And then like I think we could go more aggressive this week compared to like last week, compared to like if, hey, falls here, started this, traveling this, doing this, I have no control. Well, I mean, you never said you had no control. Like if you guys want to know how to like make your calories work on the go, and talk to Jackie, especially if you're in the car a lot.
Yeah, and I am not a meal planner or prepper. Like I don't spend Sunday making my meals for the week.
How do you do it then?
I have found just a lot of like go-to meals that work for me. So like I'm pretty consistent in what I eat for lunch. I eat 5 ounces of like fresh chicken shaved thin, and I eat it on little like crackers or whatever, but it's something that takes me less than 5 minutes to pack in the morning, and I know that I'm gonna have it for lunch. I eat a lot of apples on the go, a lot of I get these nut bars. They're like almonds and whatever from Costco, and I throw those in my bag. And I have a protein shake for my mid-morning snack. And so then by the time I get home at the end of the day, I have about 50 grams of protein left to eat. And I know that I can make that work with dinner. I use a lot of cottage cheese around dinner time. And yeah, so I just prioritize protein early in the day, and then by the time I get home, I just have to eat dinner and then go from there.
Yeah, so you figured it out. You found out what works for you. Carrie's got a question. How often did you have internal struggles with increased daily calorie total? How did you push yourself past those struggles?
I had a lot of struggles with increasing calories or hitting calorie targets. But again, it wasn't until I told myself, like, what are you afraid of happening? Are you afraid of gaining a pound by eating an extra 100 calories today? Like, I mean, is that really like a thing that I should be afraid of? No, like I'd already gained the weight. Like, why was there was no reason to be afraid of an extra 100 calories. And then by the time I hit the end of my reverse, now when I look back on it, I'm like, I should have enjoyed it more. I should have spent less time worrying about the extra 50 or 100 calories I was eating that day, and been like, I'm gonna eat a cookie with that extra 100 calories or something, like
Yeah.
spent the time eating the food that like I really used to enjoy, or
Yeah, I
told
actually
myself was unhealthy, or told myself I shouldn't eat. Like, embrace it.
right after this, I still have over 100 grams of carbs to eat today. So I'm gonna have some pretzels, peanut butter, apples,
Mhm.
some. It's a pretty standard one. It's a little late for me, but whatever.
I mean, it was hard though. Like when I got up to the like peak of my reverse, it was hard to eat that many calories in a day, because if you're eating, nutrient dense food, it's not very calorically dense. And so you are having to eat a lot of volume to hit that goal. So like you have to prioritize eating, every part of the day. Like you have to force yourself to, even if you're not necessarily like hungry yet, um, plan out your day, or you're not going to get it all in. And even now, like in a deficit, I have to plan my day because at the end of the reverse, I was eating 2,200 calories. And then you go into a deficit where suddenly 1,800 calories is less. And you're like, I really have to spend those carefully if I'm still going to be able to eat the number of times during the day that I have now trained myself that I need to eat. So like there's a lot of planning that goes in. I start my day by lunchtime. I have tracked basically my entire day. So like we make a meal plan. We don't meal prep, but we have a meal plan for the week. So I know what's for dinner every night of the week. And by lunchtime, I have planned my entire day in MyFitnessPal. So I know basically where I'm going to need to add a little bit, where I can take a little bit away from. I'll put stuff in like on a day where I don't really have a great plan, or I'm out of the house. And like 2 weeks ago, I was helping my mom with something that she was doing. I had brought some cottage cheese, so I knew I could supplement my lunch with it if I needed to. And she ordered in pizza. And so I was in my fitness pal planning around it. Okay, if I eat this, what does that leave me for dinner? If I eat this, what does that leave me? If I eat the cottage cheese, how do I work it all in? And then I worked it in, I just spend the time to play around with it and see how I'm gonna, get my whole day structured.
Yeah.
A lot of planning.
I mean, the thing that I love about that though is you have now the education background. So like this is easy for you now. It doesn't take like forever
Yeah.
to do, like
No.
you log, you do your thing, and then all you gotta do is execute.
Yep.
Compared to, I think a lot of people put a lot of stress, be like, oh, I'm just like, I hope and pray, but at the end of the day, like things just magically line up. I'm like, well, it takes a little bit more work than that. Like
Mm-hmm.
like have, it's easiest if you start with breakfast and then, you have lunch and then dinner and then like, oh shit, like I have to eat a shit ton for dinner. Cool. How can I increase that food like throughout the day? And like the really hard thing that, when we were talking about, I was like, well, I never want you to not listen to your body. So like, don't eat when you're not hungry necessarily, but tomorrow, what can you do differently tomorrow that would help you of today? Or maybe if I had like threw this snack in earlier or got like this protein in earlier, or
Yeah.
maybe for lunch I just had a little bit more so I didn't have to eat so much at dinner or whatever it may be. But like
Yeah.
it's a learning thing. And then the thing that someone told me once, like if you're going to invest in anything, invest in your education, because that's something that nobody can ever take from you. And I think that's what this is more than anything. It's just education for you about your body, how to feed yourself, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously gets me excited because you're doing so well.
Yeah, you don't eat 160 grams of protein on accident. Like it doesn't just happen. Like you have to plan your day around that.
Oh man, I hope I'm just eating. Yeah, like I'm eat right now. I'm at over 2,000 calories, but 200 grams of protein every day. Um, it's never just magically happened. Like the other day,
Mm-hmm.
I did get to 216 on accident, but it was just because I was in a hurry, so I literally had like a huge ass 240-gram pork chop. Anywho, if there's any questions from anybody online, feel free to drop them in there. If this helped at all, just drop some reactions on there. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if thumbs up, hearts, what else is there?
I won't take it personally if you didn't like it.
I loved it. I think it's like so beneficial to like, because I mean, for me, I can talk all day about diet, nutrition, about exercise, about health and wellness, about tips and tricks and things to do, like things that work for me. But I get it. Like I'm a 33-year-old male dad, 2 boys or whatever. No one knows what it's like. Like my personal battles that I deal with every day, no one would ever relate to that. And I think like a lot more people would relate to like Jackie, like, hey, you worked out really hard. You tried a million different things. Like her energy and like her biofeedback. I was thinking about like asking if I could just show you that, but I don't want to like step on that. But if you look at Jackie's, so we have these like progress reports that populate for me, which is really awesome for coaching. But I can see her calories, her protein, her carbs, her fats. I can see her weight trending. I can see circumference measurements. I can see we track her biofeedback. So I think you've probably done like 30 check-ins now. Maybe not 30, probably close to 25. Anywho, you can just see where she started, and then every week, energy just going up, energy's going up. So like Jackie's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm eating so much. I'm like, but this energy, it's better. Like we're finding the wins every week, and she probably might have just stepped right over them. But I fucking love celebrating wins. Like I think that's the coolest thing. Like, oh my gosh, like your digestion's on point, like you're pooping once a day and it's amazing. That's amazing. Like, or I don't have these like crazy cravings all the time anymore, or I'm
Mhm.
hungry. A lot of people under celebrate just being hungry. Well, if you under eat for so long, you turn off that hormone ghrelin that tells you that you're hungry. So when you get that back, that's amazing. I had one client that got her period back after a few years of not having her period. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Like, I never thought a million years that doing this eating more thing would get your body to actually like start to, get itself set up to be able to procreate again. That's what it's doing. Because if you're ready to procreate, you can lose weight. That's kind of a big signal. Yeah. You want me to do more lives, Haley, or you want Jackie to do more lives? Haley True says, this is great. Please do more lives. And then we got the 10-second awkward delay. So I don't know if he wants me to do the lives or you. Yeah, so oh, here's a big announcement. Cool. I'm just gonna end both. Perfect. She wants you back.